What's up guys, it's Sam Robles from Apollo Fishing, and today I'm going to show you how we put micro guides using our power wrapper. Stay tuned. So nowadays we use micro guides a lot. You see them in a lot of concept style guides, and today we're going to be installing them actually with the new microwave guides, these snagless ring or guide set. So these are actually the NCMW20 set, and you can buy these online. You can buy them at all your rod supply stores as well. But typically on all these concept style guides, you start off with a size about 20. Then you go like to a 12, and then depending on the specific set, you might go to a 6L or a 5H. And all of those are pretty typical type guides, but then your running guides or your small ones, when you end up with something like these little small guides here, and they're actually they can be difficult to learn how to put on, as well as and other type of guides that are difficult to put on are your spinning, your Fuji micro guides. And so so today's video I'm going to show you guys how we put them on here in our shop. So the first thing you want to do before you start working on these guides is you'll want to grind them down, and just that tip, they come already filed down a little bit, so you just want to file that edge so that line has a smooth transition. This is typical to any other guide you put on, so there's nothing special around this. So basically we have a little flying diamond rock here, and what we'll do is we'll just file this down here a little bit, and you just kind of want to make it that curve so that this the line rolls right up onto it. So it's not too much of a file. You don't need to spend all your time or grind this down all the way down, just enough so that when you put this on, it'll go on. So now that I've got my guide or my foot filed down, I'm gonna put it on the blank here, secure it on there so I can wrap it up. The first thing I do is I take this guide or this seat spacing tool, I'll put it up here, and it's got a little arm here. So what I'm doing is just making sure that arm is vertical, and that's what I'll use as the basis for aligning and making sure I'm building on the spine, or in this case, or actually this is a spinning rod, so make sure that I'm building on the spine. I have load tested this blank, and I put lines on these where all the guides go. So next thing I'll do is I'll show you how we fasten this onto the blank. Alright, so some people use tape to put these guides on. I actually like to use rubber bands. And actually, you have rubber bands on these when I'm load testing them. To put these on, there's different ways you can use a rubber band, but this is how we do it. So we just want to make sure the guide is still up. I'll hold it up here in place with my one hand, and I put the ring so that it's right in line with that seat, and then really it's just tying, it's almost like tying your shoelace. It's not really anything too complicated to tie this on. So you tie it on however you'd like with using this rubber band, and that's on there pretty tight there, right there. So I've got my line on there. See, it slipped a little bit. And so what I want to do now is just make sure that it's still vertical, that it's still in line with that plane. So the next thing we'll do is proceed with wrapping it. So I'll bring my thread here, and I'll wrap it just maybe about a 1/4 of an inch back there behind the foot. Kind of wrap it, loop it back on the back side of it, and then over, and I'll wrap this maybe once or twice just to really cinch down on that foot. And then after the second time, I'll pull it up here and put it sideways on that guide there. And now with my foot, I'm just going to slowly start pressing on it to wrap this guy. So I get a few wraps in there. I just kind of push the back side of it to make sure that it lines up there. Tilt this back a little bit, and as this is going, just kind of pushing that rest of the line to make sure it catches up so there aren't any spaces. I'm just wrapping this guy, and at this point I feel pretty confident that I've wrapped it enough times, so I'll go ahead and just typical cut right there. And then right here is where I'll just slow it down a little bit to make sure I get right on that foot. And that's why it's really important to file this foot down, so that when you're doing this stage of it, there's a little bit of a space here, but not too bad. And then you can just wrap that a little bit further. And right about here, I'm ready to remove this rubber band. And every time I remove the rubber band, I use that as an indicator that it's time for me to run my pull cable or run my pull thread. And I have my pull thread here, and I don't know what I did with it. So I'll just make a new one. So here, to make my pull thread, I've got 30-pound braid line, just an old piece of line. I'll just take it, make a knot, and run this. I like using braided fishing line. It's tougher, it lasts longer, it doesn't rip on you, and so it's just the right way to go. Or for me, it's just what we like to do. So the first thing we do now, or the next thing I should say, is we'll take and we'll remove this rubber band. Come on, all right. And so now, I always put this fishing line with the guide in the vertical position. So let me wrap this up a little bit up higher, right there. And so that I like to start there. And so I start with this at the vertical position, and I end with it at the on the bottom. So I'm gonna put it right up against that foot right there. And so there's a little crease or a little cavity there when you're done wrapping it. That's where I'm gonna pull the line through. So now we just kind of continue our wrapping. And again, here, so I started with the guide on the top to start, and then on the bottom, when I'm done, it'll be on the bottom. And so you put your finger on there to take the tension on there, pull back to release the tension on your line, cut it, run it through this loop there, and then pull this line through that cavity. And then right now that line is through that cavity. That's why I was able to go. That's why I was able to go that far back. I do like to pull that as far back as I can. And so now I'm going to do the opposite. So initially I started with my guide up on top. Now I'm going to make sure that my tool over here is directly on the bottom. And I'm going to look at it from the top here and just space that guide. Make sure I'm looking at it from the top down, and you can see where if it's aligned or not before I even cut this. And that looks right. And so I'm going to hold this here, and I'm actually going to pull this to the back of the blank. And so it's no longer in that little cavity, and that looks about right. So, and I like doing this because when it goes to aligning guides in the future or at the end of it, it actually helps with keeping that together. So if you do it too late, or if you do it in the last few passes and you got to make some adjustments, it's happened to me in the past where the whole line will come off and you have to rewrap that. Alright guys, so there you have it. That's how we install micro guides on our rods here at Palo Fishing. So if you've got any value out of this video, please hit the like button below. Let us know how you secure your guides. If you're not using rubber bands, are you using tape, or are you using some of that adhesive? I know different people have different techniques, and so for us it's just we prefer the rubber bands just because we can really play with them a lot and they don't fall off as much. But if you have another technique, or if you're using something else, please add it in the comments below. And if you haven't already subscribed to our channel, please subscribe to our channel. We're definitely trying to continue to pump out content here regarding rod building, fishing. So thanks for checking us out, and we'll see you on the next video.